New topic, look at that. How the Anakume work. I feel like this is the next important thing that's understood, is so it can be understood about the magic and how magic works in the realm. So I laid it out very simply here. The Titans made the Anakume. That's it. I mean, you can read the legend of how they were created, but essentially that's all. They created the Anakume. The Anakume dwell in the forests. Okay? That's just the original Anakume. When everything happened, this is how half-breeds were created. So you have the Aeon. Now the Aeon are the race of beings that came from the other realm and destroyed the Titans. This race was led by, as you would understand, the Forgotten King. But his real name is Dulag, amongst other names. He was accompanied with other ones. His whole, I would say, no more than 11. You have Dulag, Eik Beovac, Volur, Alaric, Albiorix, and Scaper. Those are the Aeon that I know of so far. Now, the understanding of how Dulag created mankind, well, he created the bearded pygmy first, which I forgot the name, something, it's Greek. Then he created the race of man against his people. Then he started destroying his people, so they had to make their own race. There's a whole thing about it. But I won't go into that. What you need to know is the Valandi, which are the people that dwell in the Valons, were created by Eik Beovac. The people called Seleon are actually the people that dwell in Dubois, or North Ansar. They're created by Volur. The Islandi / Forosamire peoples. Originally they lived in the Islandi, but they have a new colony called the Forosamire. They were created by Alaric. The clan, which is called clan, those are the people that dwell in Albadan, which is the wild north. They were created by Albiorix. Then you have Scaper, who created the Volkt. The Volkt are the people that live in the fjordy kind of Shattered Isles, is what it's called. It's called the Shattered Isles. It's massive fjords and fucking rivers and all that shit. That's where the Volkt live. Okay? Aeon peoples, Titan people. Just the Anakume. Half-breeds. Here's what we're talking about. So, when it comes to the first thing that's understood is the Anaku can mix with all of the races of the Aeon except for the race of Dulag's people. So, Anakume cannot mix with mankind. Just cannot do it. Because of what mankind took away from the Anaku. It has to do with the whole Dume, it has to do with all that shit. You know, you should know by now. There's a specific reason why, but I think you can kind of come to understand it why. So, take them out of the equation. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races that they can mix with. Now, the Anaku may have lost their magical powers that they once had because of the race of mankind. So the Anakume that do have powers are because of their being half-breeds. So as you can imagine, people like the Serpentine Order would use this maliciously. They would kind of, this is more than just like, oh, they just kind of met, you know, they're from different cultures, but they fell in love. It wouldn't be anything like that. With the Serpentine Order, they would be doing it to breed people, these half Anaku, into warriors, into mystics, sages, whatever they need. Here's something about them. The purebred Anakume are the only ones that are considered purebreds, are the ones that dwell in the forests. So you got Trinity Forest, the forest in Dubois, you got the one down in the south, you got, there's a couple others, I don't remember where they're at. Those are purebred Anaku. They cannot leave the forest. If you leave the forest, it's kind of a cultural exile thing that happens, but also if you are a half-breed, you cannot enter the forest. It's just something about it. The exiles have been mixed, so the people that either were culturally exiled for some reason or another, there have been cases of them becoming mixed in society and all that stuff when they go and dwell with other peoples. You wouldn't see it a whole lot in Adrana, but because Adrana is this kind of metropolis, or like this jewel of the west, jewel of the west kind of thing, there are a lot of cultures that have settled there, not just mankind. A lot of people have gone there, so you do see a lot of mixing in there, kind of like how you would imagine like old Britain, the Britons mixing with the whole Anglo-Saxons and the Angles, the Jutes and the Celts and the Picts and all that, like just like that. Like it does kind of mix in there. Or modern day America is another one. I told you about the Inaku, and Dulai creation cannot mix. It's just because I can go into it more, but we'll see what happens. For the half-breeds, they're not always outcasts. So they're not, oh, if you ever meet a half-breed, it's like, oh, you must have been cast out by your peoples. That's not necessarily true. Most of the time it is, but there are people that left the forest of their own volition. But they are kind of outliers. They're not necessarily very, very, very common. Like, oh my god, there's more half-breeds than there are Inaku. The Inaku are kind of set in their ways. If you, let's say there's 10 million Inaku in the world, I would say at the very least, there's 1 million half-breeds. So, you know, they're there. They're just not like every fucking where. It's kind of one of those things where it's cultural, you know, like eventually there's a lot of people that have Native American blood in them that aren't Native American. But originally there was not. It was one of those things where it was either rape or it was something other that's malicious as well. It's just kind of the culture that we're looking at here. They don't have a religious faction, any of these half-breeds. They're not any sort of faction in general. And they're not a country. There's not a country of, we're the half-breeds. Like, they're just people that live everywhere that other people live. And the main thing is the magic. So, and then I will go Inaku slash Inaku slash Seleon. Yes, I was told once that because I'm more of a gypsy, that I wasn't allowed to do this, but look at me go. I want to go into what powers they have. Purely magically. We're not talking about looks and all that stuff. We're just talking purely, like, you know, if an Inaku mixes with a Velandi, what kind of powers would he actually be granted? You can tap into it. For instance, what's his name? Cyphrus is actually an Inaku Volt. He is mixed with an Inaku blood, and those are the Volt people that live in the Shattered Isles. That's a character, brother. I think that's the only one that I know of that like is a central character. Perhaps Castan is? Don't know yet. He was exiled because he left the forest. That's all I know. I would imagine he's a purebred though, because he was allowed to enter the Wood of Trinity. Only a purebred Inaku may enter if you have Inaku in you. Mankind can enter the forest because they curse the forest, but only mankind. Only Trinity. Every other forest you can't dwell in as a human being. An Aoman, as they're called, because they come from the race of the Aeon. They're called Aoman. No matter if you're fucking from Dulag, Aik, Volur, Elaric, Albiorix, or anybody, you're an Aoman. Each person's called something. Like white people, black people, fucking, you know, Asian, this and that. That's what these words are. Velandi, Seleon, you know, Clan, Islandi. that's who they are, but in general they are Eomen. I don't have a perfect or a good enough name for Dulags people. I just been calling them mankind. I don't really know if that's going to be work or not, but we'll see. Because human, and I don't remember what hue. It was something strange. But we're gonna go and take a little break, and then when we come back, we're gonna start figuring out the magic of kind of, if you were playing it like a video game, I guess, like a D&D thing, what kind of abilities would these peoples have? And to know that, you'd have to look at what abilities were granted from these Aeon. They all gave magic to their people, the magic that they have within them. Mankind's the most special one because Dulag's is the realm of creation, and they stole the Dume. So you have astral Dume magic that only mankind has. No one else can do that. If you live in no, I wouldn't imagine that. If you live in like Quran, and you are you used to live in the the Volt in the fucking Shattered Isles, you can't tap into the magic. You can't do it. You can't have astral magic. Only mankind may have that. Meaning, people from Tantorum, which magic is outlawed, people from Adrana, and people from the south. I believe that's it. And the Murphos. They can tap into that. But there are different understandings of what you can access with this magic. If you think about it, when you think about like the old lore of like Star Wars, you think of like how before like the Sith were the Sith, they were kind of like dark Jedi. The way that they didn't even tap into the dark side of it, they're just like, we don't even want to fuck with it, and if you try to, you're gone. And then they sent all the dark Jedi away, and then they fucking somehow stumbled upon Korriban and all that shit, you know, whatever. It's kind of like that. Like, this is in essence, this is a major force, but it's all about how you tap into it. Everyone culturally has their own way of tapping into it in the race of mankind. So like those in Tantorum choose to not even touch it as a imperial decree, not necessarily. I mean, it's partially cultural too, with Tantorum because of their past. But like in the south, how they view Dume or astral magic is much different than those in Adrana. Adrana uses it to control their people. Adrana uses it to control the consciousness of their people to stop the spread of darkness. The real threat to the world, they believe. They believe that their people, their monarchs, shouldn't necessarily have this mighty power. It's just one of those things where it's tempered, in a sense, but at the same time it's respected. So, I mean, again, with mankind, it's all different. We just got to figure out these other races and what powers they might have. What powers were granted by their Eomen, you know, God, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're going to come to next, after I eat lunch. You know who I forgot? I forgot a peoples. I forgot a race of Aeon. And I don't know the name of the creator. Ah, come on.
Hey guys, what's going on, brothers?
It's the Hafel. The Hafel are mountain people. So, alright, I think it's 2 A's instead of 2 E's. I forgot about them, and I don't even think they have an Aeon that's named, so that's something I have to do. I thought I did, though. I thought I did, because I was going like through my mind, like, what do they look like? Appellation kind of thing. So that's kind of what I was going for. I'll think of something. I'll give them a good name. Anyway, when we have the mixing, and this is all to be worked on further, but this is what I have so far. First one, the Hafel, they have the power of speaking with the supernatural. beyond the realm of life. They would be kind of known as like mystics and sages and all that stuff. They're gifted with their, I did, okay. It says they're gifted with their nameless god's innate ability to speak to all aspects of life. So, what would you call that? I don't fucking know. Anaku, kind of like a soul singer. Soul singers. Kind of, no, they can speak to the dead. Let's think of it like witchcraft kind of stuff. So we'll just kind of do, we'll say witchcraft, even though that's not the right word. Okay, the mix with the Islandi. The Islandi is the most stupid one. They're very persuasive and passionate. I don't know, I'm still working on it. It's just like, what do they have? The power of persuasion, to a degree that's unheard of, and their passion, the care that they have. So what kind of power is that? I would say probably they could have the possibility, the power of manipulation, control, that kind of persuasion will fall into that a sense. What's the word? Not personable, but I would imagine that they are very, like, dominating the mind. Dominating a weaker mind. Telekinesis? You know, that's what always falls in that, right? If you have a high enough brain power. Possibility of telekinesis in there? It's hard to say because this is so new. Now, like I said, from this stage, this is all still in the works, subject to change. With Saint Leon, they have the power called brick and mortar, mass builders, grand architects, unique fortifications. What would I say there? Why would that be their power? Maybe strength, maybe, I mean, besides architecture, which is stupid. We can build really good buildings. But at the sense of why you would do that, very defensive. I don't know. That's another tough one. This is kind of where, like, this has just started too, so it's kind of rough. It's still in the early stages. The, what are they called? The Valandi. They kind of have an interesting magic. I would say, oh, what's it called? Geomancy. But they fall victim to the collective consciousness of that race because of Egg Beelvach. Geomancy, that's what they have. I don't know what that would be. And the last two races conjoined. So these two races, the clan and the Volt, they have the Aeons that were conjoined because they were together. They perished at the hand of Dulac, though before they fell, they granted their own essence that could flow through their people. Not like Eik Beothach, where this meant direct control, but instead, it meant they could be a part of their lives and give their people strength in any harsh world. After all, they were the children of the only two Aeon that loved one another, which is a feeling that was felt after that they went to this realm. In a process that can slightly differ from each race, but it's generally in the same. It's like surrendering of the wills to allow the spirits to enter, and that way the gods are within the user. They can grant some unique abilities. It's a symbiotic relationship that enhances both user and spirit. There's no clear case of this. As for the wild folk, are reclusive and isolated peoples far removed, cut off from society. So I think what I was trying to go for is like spirit magic, and oh my goodness, what is it called? Like in Dragon Age, you get rift magic. It's kind of like that. So we'll just call it spirit magic, and they can channel the Aeon, in a sense. Spirit magic, undead, so conjuration, spirit magic, so Hafal conjuration, spirit magic. We have geomancy for the Vallandi, but also there's something else kind of going on with them. When it comes to the Céléon, illusion, maybe some like this in general. Isn't that what it is in D&D when you have manipulation, control, mind dominance, telekinesis? Isn't that it? Is that an illusion, or is that fuck? What's that other one called? Let me look it up. Fuck, dude. That's why it's good to be a piece of shit like you are. Let me look it up real quick, and then I'll crumb back, as they say. Okay, I figured it out. To put it simply, the Hafel, conjuration, is their magic power that they're gifted. So Enakume mixing with Hafel can have the access to conjuration. The Volten clan, spirit magic. Simple enough. And if the Enakume mix with them, they have access to that. Islandi is, like I said, illusion. I forgot. I don't know if illusion can also be a part of here, because it's tricking people with like things. I made this appear here, but at the same time, like that's also here. So we'll see. The Céléon, abjuration, wards and protective things and this and that, you know. And the Vallandi is geomancy. So the one we didn't do is Céléon, which is abjuration. I don't really know because I don't play D&D. I just looked it up and I was like, what are fucking magic systems in D&D? And that was the one that made the most sense for them. Like how I would imagine that they would work. It's purely a defensive thing. Which also gives them their strength and their defenses as well. So magical barriers, this and that. Not an offensive kind of peoples. Which explains why the people like Chevalier Lilith Patrice or whatever it is, the Knights of the Blight, that's why they're so like looked upon, because not only the defense is going to hold for a while when it comes to the war that's cast over the Blight. The bridge of Mort, I think it's the Mort Bridge. But when you have these people that are going against kind of everything that the Céléon are not about, like they're not an offensive kind of people. In some ways, actually, in Aval, they kind of take on the same mentality. So I imagine there might have been at some point some influence of people of Dubois. I would imagine. It makes sense, you know. They have this ability. But in a nutshell, that's it. And so when you have these half-breeds, this is where you can allow yourself into magic as an Anaku. But the problem is, it's not like, well, then why don't we just mix with people and blah, blah, blah. That's not what the purebred Anaku are wanting. They are wanting a purebred Anaku way again, and one that isn't cursed. And the reason they're cursed is because of Dulag. So that means we have to figure out how to solve this problem. And that's where groups like the Serpentine Order were born. They were born of this kind of idealism, fanaticalism. I think those are the words I was trying to think of the last time. I couldn't remember. Like being fanatics. All for the purpose of their own people. They're xenophobic. They are trying to preserve a culture and a peoples. And they kind of see these exiles, these people, as lesser. But they'll more than happily use these half-breed exiles for their master plans. It's all done for the right reasons in their mind. So I wanted to just kind of give a quick understanding, as quick as I can make it, of how there are the Enakume and the peoples, and these are half-breeds. These are the races of the book. The high races. I wouldn't say these are all the sentient races, because there are still a couple others that I'm working on. These are the ones that you're going to be mostly focused on. The other ones are not necessarily, they're more beasts. You know, when you think of like, you think of the Bible, God made man and then everything else. So imagine if like that made sense in the realm of like fantasy. They made these people, they made those, but the creator of this world, these Titans, also made lesser races to accompany, to be companions to be dominated by, whatever the original Enakume. So there might be orc-like people, you know, elf-like people, or trolls and stuff like that. It all exists, you know. It's just they're not gonna be, their plight does not matter essentially in the story. They're just there, you know. It's just like you seeing a wolf out there, or a bear or anything. Like, does it have sentience? It's hard to say, you know what I mean? We like to think that they don't necessarily, but alright, well that's it though. I just wanted to have this quick one so we can dispel some of that stuff, be on the same page. A lot of this magic stuff I feel like Jacob will kind of like run with, because he gets it. I don't really understand it, I'll be honest. Like, if you were to tell me to sit down and tell you what abjuration is, I could tell you what I read in those couple sentences, and it's like almost like wards and protective things, but I couldn't tell you what the limitations are, what each individual spells are, or however it works. I don't fucking know. Same with geomancy, spirit magic, conjuration. I know the gist of it. If you can do conjuration, eventually you can raise the dead. Other than that, I don't fucking know what else they do. I don't know. You just make things come from another place, which make these guys super important to the Serpentine Order. It's just their reluctancy, their reclusiveness, and the ability to hide has made those fuckers hard for the Enaku. Even the Serpentine Order. Because, you know, they can't be too powerful. I mean, if they had the ability to conjuration, then they could pull stuff from the other realms. Not their own creation, but the other realms, indeed. And I think that perhaps this is the beginning of this weird God, as they're calling it, is speaking to them because of this ability that they have from some of the Hafel that they have captured or persuaded, however you want to look at it. But the idea is for this to kind of kickstart what powers do they have in this world, which I've never looked at it in terms of stuff like this. I've never done that. It's usually stupid. Like you saw, they have good architecture. You know, I'm not a magical kind of person. I didn't really. For me, it's the forests, and that's all I can really grasp. I can't really grasp like elemental shit, and it's out of my hair. With all of this, it kind of gives us an understanding of more and more each day the world. Whereas the last one was more about story, but as it'll be seen with these what are they called? Papers? Reports that I've been doing, it'll be understood more and more about this world is becoming clearer than it ever has. And it's becoming more defined, and that's the whole point of this. I'm defining it to the point where it's done. No more is it foggy. I've let it grow and ferment and stew enough. Now it's time to put the fucking ingredients in that are gonna, you know, or turn the heat off and eat it. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, we're at that point now. So there's gonna be a lot more of these where it's this is the hard line. There are no more. Well, what about, or maybe no more. We're gonna. This is all it is. Luckily, it's vague enough where we can still add other things. But that's that. And I will make another one whenever I can think of another thing.